Today we're heading to South Dakota on the Himalayan. Gonna try to take as many back roads as I can. There's a couple areas where it's just easier to take the highways or the paved county roads, partially because of how the rivers run through the area and the gravel roads don't always go through, so you end up zigzagging a lot on the gravel roads, which is generally alright. Sometimes it freaks out Google Maps and it just wants to tell you the quickest way, so you end up on the asphalt sometimes. But usually the last half of the trip is somewhere on gravel. This is one of those roads that doesn't go anywhere. The guy could probably squeeze through there and ride across, but this section of the bridge has been actually closed for a long time. A lot of people come down here and fish. It's part of the Crow River. You can generally do pretty good with catfish, walleye, northern. But I just purposely took a detour because it's a nice place to stop and take a rest. But time to hit the road again. So a lot of times what I like to do on my little adventures back to South Dakota, and you can imagine, well, those who know me can imagine, I've tried to take about every possible route back and forth from South Dakota to Minneapolis as possible. And what I like to do when I'm on the Himalayan is use my Google Maps and put it in bicycle mode, and I'll go, let's say, 1 mile, 2 miles, 3 miles north or south of home and start from there. Well, I've used up most of those options, so now I just go a little bit further and a little bit further west, and then I start from there and see where it shows me I'm going to go. And if the map looks interesting, there's a lot of gravel roads in play, and it's someplace that I haven't, or at least part of the journey is someplace that I haven't been before, then I usually like to take that. Give it a try. Sometimes you see beautiful places, like that little lake back there filled with swans. Sometimes you get into hill country, which there isn't much of in Minnesota or South Dakota. But you see some farms that you never knew existed. You get off the beaten path, see something a little bit different. Whereas if you're on a cruiser bike, like if I'm on one of the Indians, you pretty much got to stick to the pavement, and the ride back and forth gets pretty boring. And to be honest, I think it's been a couple of years since I've taken one of those bikes back to South Dakota. And not only because the farm is on a gravel road and I hate that last couple of miles on one of the big bikes on gravel roads, but it's just, well, I hope that wind isn't too terrible. But I'm going to turn here pretty quick anyways and get off the asphalt, back on the gravel. But what I was saying is it just makes the journey so much better, so much more fun. It's the ride home is now part of, let's say, the weekend. It's not the 3 or 4 hours of the thing that you have to do to get before you get there, before your weekend can start. Now it's part of the adventure, it's part of the weekend. I've told so many people, a lot of my friends who have cruiser motorcycles, whether it be Harleys or Indians or sport bikes. I used to be a sport bike nut. I tell them, you gotta get yourself an adventure bike. It's just, it changes your riding experience. Especially if you live where we live, there's a lot of beautiful roads to ride motorcycle on. A lot of nice curvy roads. But you can only do them so many times before it starts to get a little mundane. And I know South Dakota is not just a small trip, and it's not easy to go on someplace different all the time. But it really, like I said, adds to the adventure. And if you have the opportunity to ride, whether it be a Himalayan, a KLR, a Tenere, or one of the bigger bikes, take an opportunity and do that, because it, like I said, it changes your whole riding experience. Just being able to see things you haven't seen before. You know, the ditches on the side of the highway, they're nothing to look at. But you get out in the countryside like I am here, and there's beautiful country out here, and a lot of people just don't know it exists because they never leave the asphalt. about halfway back to South Dakota. Currently on a gravel road that I've taken in the past, but this is one of my favorite places to stop and take a break, get some water, maybe a little bit of nicotine in the form of some Copenhagen. But it's a nice place to stop, take a break. I'll be on this road for probably another 9 or 10 miles. And then I am going to take a little detour and see where Google takes me after doing the detour. So we'll see you on the road. I'm back on the long, straight country gravel roads. I was just in a situation that kind of made me think about what I was talking about a little bit ago. About run out and get yourself an ADV bike and take gravel roads across the country instead of staying on the highways. I grew up on gravel roads, riding motorcycles, bicycles. So there's a couple things that, you know, don't always occur for me to talk about or to say, and one of the things is soft gravel roads or roads that have been recently graded by a road grader. A few minutes ago, and maybe still a little bit here, I was getting into some, yep, there's some pretty soft stuff here. I was getting into some soft areas and some deeper areas caused by the road graders. They'll leave, and you can kind of see it right off here. A little bit of a windrow created by the road grader where it's deeper and a bit loose. And if your whole life you've been riding on the pavement and then you jump onto gravel roads and you're riding for the first time, those are things that sometimes can kind of sneak up on you. So I shouldn't just say go out, get a bike, ride gravel everywhere, because it is something you kind of have to get used to, and over time it'll become instinctive. you know, how to handle the front tire wanting to wash out on you and that loose stuff. But as with anything, like I said, you'll get used to it, and probably won't have any problems with it. In saying that, I guess there are times where I've probably still come pretty close to biffing it, but just a point of interest or a bit of advice, take it how you want it. Now we're getting into the country. Minimum or no maintenance roads. Generally the most fun. Says minimum maintenance. It looks a bit less minimum maintenance than the last one, but that's what adventure is all about. So anyways, like I was saying, I got kind of addicted to watching that Itchy Boots on YouTube, and went out and got the Himalayan, and haven't regretted it one bit. I think on a little short review that I did, I did say one thing that I wish it had was a better top speed, because sometimes you do end up on the highways. Good example today was I had a semi truck behind me who wanted to do 70-75 for a stretch of road that I was on, and you know, this thing will probably do 75, but I think that's probably pushing its max. So I just kind of slowed way down over to the shoulder, let him pass me, because I'm never in a hurry on these trips. Like I said earlier, the ride to South Dakota is part of the weekend. It's part of the adventure. So some of these ruts in here are getting a little bit deeper. For the most part, it's not too bad though. Again, more corn as far as the eye can see. She's getting a bit bumpy. This one doesn't say minimum maintenance road. I better turn around. I don't know. I don't want to end up trespassing on somebody's property. Like some good hunting land. A couple of elevated box stands out there. A lot of no hunting and no trespassing signs. Just saw a deer about a half a mile back. Didn't get the camera turned on. More hunting blinds out there. Oh, actually, there was a deer back there too, on the edge of the bean field. Coming up on the Minnesota River. It's a good place to pull off, take a break, make a couple of phone calls. Tell Mom I'm not gonna make it home quite in time for supper. Getting dizzy yet? Stopped at a boat ramp with a big kind of parking lot turnaround area. Take a rest, have some water, hang out and enjoy the birds. Wish I had my fishing pole. Looks like we got a bald eagle sitting out there. Oh, there it just took off. Did I already say that I wish I had my fishing pole? Walleye, 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 walleye. What the heck? Looks like there's some carp over there spawning. I don't know if you can barely see his back sticking out of the water right by that outlet. Oh, there's a couple of them over there. Oh, I wish I had my bow and arrow. Bow and arrow. My bow and arrow. Wish I had my bow fishing set up. Beautiful Minnesota River. Back on the road. Some beautiful countryside in the Minnesota River Valley. Old farmstead. Why use the grass when you got a nice paved road? Hey, buddy. Better watch out for that truck that's coming. You should be seeing the hare pretty quick. I hope that little guy hadn't made it into that lane yet. Yes! Another minimum maintenance road. beans and corn. I think we're about 10 or 12 miles from the South Dakota border. Excuse me. Excuse me. Look for trains and stay on the road. Turn the camera on. We're about ready to cross the Minnesota-South Dakota border. And boom, I think that's it right there. Welcome to South Dakota. Isn't it amazing how different it looks? Okay. Well, it's the first jogger I've seen the entire trip. Guess that means South Dakota has more in shape people. Sure is windy in South Dakota. Woo. You can tell when you're by the border because there's a lot of granite quarries. And I like putting granite on the roads instead of gravel. At least when they're very close to the quarries. Which, if you can see those occasional hills out there that look like they don't belong, those are generally the what would you call it? The scrap granite. We'll actually stop at the famous fishing and swimming quarry hole where I used to go when I was growing up, meeting all my friends. So I'll pick you back up in a bit. Oh, we got Big Tom over there in the distance. Squeak, squeak goes the brake. Big Tom is a sledding hill. At least it used to be. There's all the scraps from the granite quarry. There's little mountains like that all over this area. This is the famous quarry hole in between Big Stone and Millbank, where I mentioned earlier fishing, swimming, and partying. Now there's no swimming, no diving, no alcohol, an 11 p.m. curfew. So the fishing I'm talking about is stocked rainbow and brown trout. They've been stocking this quarry hole, shoot, I really don't know how long, ever since I was a little kid. The water's always nice and clear. You can generally, well, sometimes you can see down onto the ledges, and sometimes you can see the trout swimming around. Yeah, you can see some of the deeper ledges out there. But they still stock it. People still come out here and fish. I don't think anybody comes out here to party anymore. We actually used to have a diving board right above that tallest piece out there. I like that. Jesus is Lord and NSU, Northern State University, where I went to school. That over there is one of the best fishing spots. In God we trust. But we used to be out here in the summertime. We'd have anywhere from 20 to 50 people in inner tubes floating around, diving off the, I guess you could call them cliffs. They're probably about 15 feet high, maybe 20 at the highest. And then the diving board that was out there was a huge piece of treated timber from, I suppose, an old quarry building or something. And on the back of the timber, there was a piece of steel cable that was fixed on both ends in the rock, or in the granite rock, and the back side of that big piece of timber was underneath the steel cable, and it would give it just a little bit of spring. I think I'm gonna go for a little adventure and see if I can get back to the good fishing spot. So this is the little trail that you use to get back to those other fishing areas. Me and the guys used to stand here and fish and line up along that edge over there. We'd be out here for 2 or 3 hours fishing. Catch enough trout to feed 6 or 7 of us. And we drive way to the other side of town to a wayside rest and grill trout. So this was one of the favorite spots because you could see the different ledges down there a little bit deeper, and you could see if the trout were swimming over it. We generally use a tiny little hook and little kernels of sweet corn. It'd actually be a beautiful night for fishing right now. I'm hoping to see some trout swimming around down there, but I don't know if that's going to happen. In case you're wondering why they would stock trout in a granite quarry like this, is because the water stays cool, and if it does warm up, I think this particular hole is somewhere between 150 and 200 feet deep. So if they want to go down to a little bit cooler water, all they got to do is drop 10, 15, 20 feet in depth, and it's not too hot for them anymore. All right, well, it's time to get to the farm. We'll pick you back up later. So here's where they cut and polish the granite. There's another scrap heap mountain, if you want to call it a mountain. Scrap hill. We got some, excuse me, got some corn trying to sneak through in the beans. Bad thing about this road, all the traffic to and from the quarries. Well, that's it for me. It's been a great trip to South Dakota.